Hey everybody, Syntax77 back with you. Just out on a nice day hike and testing out a new piece of gear. Got myself a hammock with me and I'm gonna do some lounging today. Now this is actually the second hammock I've gotten from this manufacturer. I previously did a video on something called the Amok Draumr. Amok is the company, Draumr is the hammock model. Now if you saw that video, you probably do remember this hammock because it's quite unique. It laid completely flat with an air mattress in it, and my wife and I took it on a trip to a section of the Appalachian Trail in West Virginia. If you haven't seen that video, even if you're not interested in the hammock, that's a fun video. I do suggest you check it out. Sarah is at her best in that video as usual. Anyway, that at this point has been a couple years ago, and Amok has since come out with a different hammock. Now it's a completely different kind of purpose and function, this hammock. This one is not the lay flat style. This is more the traditional gathered end hammock, more for fast and light, ultralight backpacking, or what I think they anticipate to be used for even more so is a just always in your pack, throw it up when you're on a day hike like this and relax hammock. It's under 1 pound and it is called the Amok Segl. And yes, that's spelled S-E-G-L, but it's not Segl or Segl, it is Segl. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with hammocks, let me just fill you in on one of the basics. You can't use it on rock walls. Not gonna happen. You're gonna need some trees, particularly at least 2 trees. So we gotta find that first. That looks a little better. Slightly larger tree here. Nice medium-sized tree there. That I think we can make work. Get this pesky pack off. Well, I like this pack, but I'm about ready for a break from it. And pull out the hammock. And there it is right there. This big old backpack I'm just carrying around, some camera gear and some other stuff just for testing, but there's no reason that I need that big old pack because I got this here, quite small as you can see. Setup is pretty easy. It has these adjustable polyester straps. Polyester so they don't have any stretch to them, which is good. Pretty much an industry standard nowadays. They used to use nylon sometimes on some of these products, and they've pretty much been phased out because once you get it set up, it stretches and then all your stuff's kind of out of whack. The straps are actually sewn on. Everything's integrated. It's impossible to lose anything with this system, including the stuff sack itself. You'll see when I pull it apart here on the other end, the other strap and the stuff sack is integrated right on there. It's one thing I do like about these guys, Amok. The engineering is just nice. Their stuff is simple, straightforward, and I've come to kind of like that. It reminds me a lot of another company that's a favorite of mine, which is Dutchware Gear. Good engineering, simple stuff. It just works. In fact, you'll actually see this little loop of extra strap on the cinch buckle here, and that helps you adjust it. And we'll see that in a second. But that's, again, another really simple thing, but it's clever, and it actually makes setting up with the cinch buckles a lot quicker than trying to fiddle with it and get it to loosen or tighten. First things first, like I said, I got my trees here, so I'm just gonna set up. Now on each end I have a carabiner, and you'll notice that the strap flares out a bit, and we'll see why in a second. That protects the tree. That's very similar, just about identical actually, to the setup on the Draumr, which is the flat hanging hammock. So they've taken that strap system and put it on this here. So I'm just gonna pop it around the tree. I'm gonna keep it right side up and make sure not to twist the strap. That way it won't have any slippage. So we go around the tree, put it on, and we'll adjust as we go, but that's a good starting point. And now I just grab the other end. And I should point out, it's nice and dry right now, so I'm not being too careful. You see I've had the hammock on the ground a couple times. The real smart thing to do would be to keep it in that bag until I get it on the first tree, and now I can pull it out of the stuff sack as I go. But being kind of lazy right now because it's a nice dry day, which is great. Over to the other tree, and we're just going to clip it on the same way. Again, making sure to keep the carabiner pointed up and the flared out larger part of strap against the tree. And then there's one more key thing to pay attention to, besides the fact that right now this is a great example of how you would not want to set up your hammock. It's completely flat or straight right now. You want 30 degrees or so, roughly, of angle in here, which is about the angle between thumb and forefinger when you're making a little gun sign like this. And we are way off from that right now, but we'll get to that in a second. What we're doing first is making sure that the carabiner and strap is oriented so it comes straight off the tree and through the carabiner, instead of like this, where it's pulling against it and putting a lot of stress on both the strap and the carabiner. Now I must admit, there's actually a video that I did a couple years ago at this point, and it was with Dutch clips, but similar idea where you want it to come straight off the tree, the strap, through the device, and I totally described that wrong, and it's been haunting me for years, unfortunately. So make sure you do that and you will save your strap. Now luckily the carabiners that come with the Amok style are pretty smooth, so if it's got a little bit of tension on it, it's not like going to eat through it, but you don't want to do that on purpose. All right, so now I'm going to continue setup, and this setup is not specific to the Amok style. In fact, this is a standard procedure for any gathered end hammock. So let's just continue doing it, and I'm going to loosen it up. But that's where I hit a point where there is a difference, and it's those loops I was talking about. So real simple, I put my thumb in here and hold the other end and just pull this way, and it comes down real easy. And pull again, goes back up, release tension, and it's locked in, as long as, of course, you didn't twist your line all up. Come straight off the tree and you're good. See how lucky I am on the first try. Might be a little tight, but let's see. It's definitely not dangerous, at least. See, you magnify a lot of the forces when you hang it improperly. The straighter you get, the more the weight inside is magnified, and you start putting a lot of stress on this thing that it's not supposed to handle. Right now, it feels pretty good. It might not be perfect, but it feels pretty good. Speaking of weight rating, I'll tell you that right now off the little info card for the Sile. Weight rating is up to 150 kilograms. That's 330 pounds for those of us on the Imperial system. Feeling pretty good. Look at that. Now I should probably get out and take a look at this, but I think I'm doing pretty good. I might be a little low on that end, but that kind of brings up one of the key things that I want to talk about with this system, and I hinted on it earlier, which Amok told me themselves was kind of their idea for this product. They have the other flat hammock as their kind of overnight camping and sleep hammock, and there's no reason you couldn't use this hammock for that. But this particular hammock I find good for, you're taking a hike like I am today, you stop to take a break, you throw it up, and you're good to go. And it's 15 ounces, and as you'll see on their card, gotta love the Norwegians, they don't mess around, just straight up says no BS weight. 15 ounces or 420 grams. Now, of course, everything in life has trade-offs. So how is it that light? Well, obviously they picked nice lightweight materials that are still strong. I would have to assume that's a major part of the equation. But on top of that, it should be pointed out, the length of this hammock is 9.5 feet from end to end, the actual body of the hammock. 9.5 feet. I've personally found over the years that I enjoy, well, let me get these shoes off and really relax here. Okay, where was I? I found over the years that I really enjoy a 10.5 to 11 foot hammock. I think 10.5 is kind of my sweet spot. I really like that. That's like on, for instance, my Dutch wear half-wet hammock, which is my go-to camping hammock for warm weather with moderate bugs. I also have hammocks that are 11 foot, and they feel great too. When I first started out with hammock camping, all of my hammocks were 10 foot. I figured, hey, I'm 5'11", I'm not even over 6 feet tall. It's no big deal. I can do 10 foot, which the standard choices when I first started, and it's still kind of this way, are 10 foot or 11 foot. Over the years, I found that 11 foot or 10.5 foot works for me because basically, and that brings up another feature of this hammock and all gathered end hammocks, you can lay like this if you want, right? Banana hammock style. Wait, that didn't sound right. Or you can stretch out on an angle and you'll find that it starts to lay even flatter, particularly if you get your strap angles correctly. So if you like to lay on an angle, it's simple math. The longer the hammock is, the more diagonal you can get in it. So with an 11 footer, you'll find that you can rotate a bit more in it than say a 10 footer and on down the line to a 9.5 footer. So me personally, if this was the only hammock I had, yeah, I would make it work for camping, no problem whatsoever. But usually I'm gonna grab a longer hammock. But does that matter for just walking along with a day hiking hammock and taking breaks where you're either gonna be sitting in this thing or just taking a quick lounge like I am right now? I'm totally comfortable. I'm not trying to sleep through the entire night. No, it doesn't. So you take a little hit on the length and it keeps your weight and volume down. Pretty simple, right? Now I should also point out, there are a ton of hammocks out there and a ton of people using them at 9.5 feet and they're just fine. In fact, I can think of one really big brand, Eno. I believe, I could be wrong, I'm pretty sure their hammocks are 9 or 9.5 feet. I think 9.5. And they seem to be doing quite well. People seem to be okay with them. I don't own any of the Eno hammocks, but they seem to be doing all right. So it's not the end of the world, but just keep that in mind. If you're a taller guy or if you're somebody that already knows that you like a 10 foot plus or 11 foot hammock, just keep that in mind for this hammock if you're planning on sleeping overnight in it. But as a day lounger, feels just fine, honestly. Matter of fact, I take that back. I could probably take a nap right now. Right now I'm doing a nice, I like to call it like a figure 4. I put this one knee out here. Nice and comfy, staring up at the treetops. Not bad. Now, another thing pertaining to length and weight and the trade-off is the straps. They are 9.5 feet long. So typically, for the East Coast, I carry 10-foot straps anyway. Not a big deal. Now, of course, the most obvious thing is the longer your straps, the further apart you can get your trees, so you're going to have more options. But the less obvious thing, and I think what you run into more often, is the fact that wider trees, like this one down here, are going to eat up your straps a lot more than a narrow tree. So for on the East Coast, like I said, not a problem to have 10-foot straps even for camping. Out west, or if you're in an area with older growth, bigger trees, you might find trees that aren't that far apart, but they're so wide that they eat up all your straps. A lot of guys in those situations are carrying like 15-foot straps just to make sure they get through it. And sometimes I do that too to be safe, but that's usually for camping situations where it is do or die. At the end of the night, I need to have my hammock up. I need to be somewhere important, so I pack a little extra weight in strap length so that at camp I have a much better chance of finding somewhere to sleep, which is kind of important to, you know, survival and stuff. But going back to the philosophy of just a chill hammock, let's call it, not the end of the world. And like I said, I've done a lot of camping trips with 10-foot straps and it's just fine. So an extra half foot on either end is not the end of the world. And one other key thing to point out on this hammock that for me at least would differentiate it from a camping hammock to more of a daily lounger is the fact that you'll notice, or maybe you haven't noticed until now, it does not have a ridge line, which for those of you less familiar with hammocks, maybe I'll roll in some footage of other hammocks I have for comparison. A ridge line would simply be a line that goes from one end to the other of the hammock, so at each gathered end, and that length is chosen carefully based on the length of the hammock so that you're more likely to get what they call an ideal hang, or it kind of forces you to get that 30 degrees, which in a situation where I'm trying to sleep through the entire night is going to be important. And then also I like to hang items off of my ridge line. I might put a stuff sack or an organizer up there and throw items in it so that in the middle of the night I can quickly grab my stuff, check my watch, might have a light hanging up there so that I can do some reading or just have it accessible. So that is something to point out on this. This hammock system is just straight hammock body, no ridge line. So for me, that does make it lend itself more towards the lounger type system. Now let's talk about stretchiness and comfort. Going back to my card here, this fabric is a 20D Robic nylon. I can say, and I'm not really a super connoisseur of this, some people talk all day about the stretchiness of one hammock material versus another. It doesn't really affect me a whole ton, so I might not be the best person to judge this, but I'd say it's medium. I can feel a little bit of stretch in this, but it's not like super stretchy and it's not super hard either. I've had some polyester hammocks that are like no stretch almost. It's like, I liked it, but it's like no give at all. It really is a personal preference thing, and they probably did this for that exact reason. Kind of seems right down the middle. A little bit of stretch, so it feels good, but it's not too hard. The material itself, now I didn't do this test on purpose, it just kind of happened. I had this hanging up in my backyard on my back deck in between the two rafter posts, support beams, and I left it out overnight and it ended up raining. So the next morning I got a good look at what happens when rain gets on this. Some materials out there for hammocks are more cloth or cotton-like and other ones are more plasticky-like. This one again is kind of down the middle. It's soft and it feels not quite like cotton, but not plasticky either. But it did beat up that water when I came out the next morning and it was raining. All the water was beaded up real nice on this, almost like rain on a Rain-X windshield. I just kind of hit it a few times, shook it off, and most, I'd say 90% of the water just flung right off. It didn't actually absorb it. So that's kind of nice when you're packing this up and putting it away. It's not going to absorb a lot of water. That's cool when you're on the go in your Amok Segl. I should point out too, some of you are probably wondering what's up with the name on this thing, S-E-G-L, and it's Segl and what? Well, Amok, I learned this the first time around with the Draumr. Their naming convention is to use Old Norse, which, to go off on a little bit of a tangent from hammocks right now, Old Norse is an old, extinct, no longer used language, but it's kind of the precursor to the Northern Germanic languages, or specifically Scandinavian languages, i.e. Norway, which is where Amok is based. So Segl translates in Old Norse to sail. Kind of get the idea compared to the other hammock. This one's just very simple. It's like a sail, some cloth in the wind. Kind of a cool naming convention. I like it. Old Norse is also kind of romanticized as the language of the Vikings. So you got those cool points going for you too, due to the time period that it was around the 9th to 12th centuries, as well as the geographical Scandinavian region. And there you go, you got the language of the Vikings. I will point out though, and I think I have a couple subscribers from Iceland, correct me if I'm wrong and I'm still going to mispronounce it, but at first I found myself wanting to call this the Sek, which I believe would be more of an Icelandic pronunciation, I think. Icelandic being basically the closest modern language to Old Norse. So it seems to me, to continue on my language rant, that perhaps this is Old Norse with a Norwegian pronunciation style. But more importantly, I want to apologize to everybody out there who thought this was a hammock video, and now we're talking about language. And I'd like to apologize to anybody who actually speaks those languages, because I'm probably pronouncing none of this correctly. Terrible. What was I talking about? Hammocks? Yeah. It's comfortable, it's lightweight. Let's look at the card and see if there's anything else to say. I think that's about it. I mean, it comes in a variety of colors. The price is not bad. It's actually only a little more than you would pay for a super bare bones system where you put it together yourself, modular, which the system is not modular. It is all integrated and sewn together. Like I said, there's no missing any parts. But if you're used to wanting to use your own straps and stuff, well, no, this wouldn't be the system for you. But I also like that I can grab it and I know instantly if I'm just going on a little day hike or something, I'm not putting a lot of thought into it, all my system parts are right there. There's no way I get out here. And believe me, I've done it where it's just a day hike, so it's not the end of the world. I'm not camping, I grab my hammock and I don't have my straps. That's silly, but it has happened to me. All right, I'm gonna put my shoes back on. I'll break this thing down, which is basically just stuffing it into the sack. We'll show you that real quick. And I'll get back on the trail, I guess. Pretty quick and easy. Where are my shoes? Didn't exactly wear the best shoes for hiking today. They're just regular old sneakers, which, contrary to popular belief, you're not going to die if you don't have boots or trail runners in the woods, but a little muddy in here today, so might not have been the smartest thing ever, but that's okay. And you can see it is nice for sitting. Now, that weight rating, of course, probably wouldn't want to put 2 people in here, but I'm sure that people will, and they'll probably get away with it. But technically, well, actually, it's a 330-pound weight rating, so if you're both under 150, you're going to be perfectly fine. If you're over that, maybe not do the 2-person sitting, but there's enough room on here. I've done 10-foot hammocks before with 2 people sitting in it for lounging. Works just fine. My wife and I enjoy that sometimes, although I'm alone today. But that's okay. All right, so here we go. Packing this guy up. Super simple. Let's do it all in reverse. But this time I'll actually do the reverse version of the way I should unpack it to keep it off the ground. Just kind of bunching it up as I go. And it goes right back into its stuff sack. The stuff sack, I find a good combination of not too small so that it's a pain to get everything back in here, but not too large that it's, you know, bigger than it has to be. All right, so at this point I got it down to the straps. Now, going back to clever engineering, they actually do have a little piece of Velcro straps so that you can very neatly package the strap back up at the end, but to be honest, I don't bother with that. I think it works just fine being stuffed right in there. But if you are a little more into organization, it's kind of a nice little feature. Again, something simple, but nice. With me, I'm just going to shove all of the straps back in here, like so. Carabiners down in there. I usually leave the carabiners towards the top. That way you can pull it out easily on your next usage. But other than that, I just kind of stuff it in there haphazardly. Pull the little drawstring, cinch it down, and now I'm ready to go. Not bad. You could practically clip this thing to your belt and you'd be good to go. It's not even a pound, so you wouldn't notice it too much. Well, maybe I'll put it in a cargo pocket. There we go. And like I said, it squishes down even more, so there we go. So, right on. Now I got my, look, concealed carry for hammocks. Do you even know that I'm carrying a hammock right now? I'm ready to chill at any moment. Any moment, people. All right, well, I guess pack up and head on out of here, huh? Pack back on. Now we'll just see if I can find my way out of this place, since I've been kind of ambling about, staring at trees. Came off the path a little bit, but follow the creek and we should be okay. I found a trail in there. It's not exactly the same one I took in, but seems to be going in the right direction, so we'll see. Perhaps I'll be camping in this hammock after all, although I don't have any underquilts or anything. Oh, it's pretty warm. It's getting a little cooler though. I don't know about you guys, but anybody else out there as happy as I am that it's gonna cool down soon? Or at least it seems to be here on the mid-Atlantic East Coast area, because my favorite time is fall. I know people got a little cranky with me for not posting a bunch of backpacking videos lately, but July's just not my thing. I mean, maybe up north, New England and whatnot, it's fine in July, but a lot of my places that I want to go this year have been down south, and even the one I just did was pretty hot. So sorry, that's just my thing. But fall's coming, then winter. We got a whole year to go, people. We're going to do some cool stuff. Testing out gear, locations, all that stuff. Oh yeah, this is looking familiar. I think we're back on track now. Very nice. Means the parking lot should be up here. Nice little day hike out here today. Nice to get out. So thanks for joining me on this short little excursion. I do like to try out new hammocks. I've got like a dozen of them now, and I like to test out new gear in general and just share it with you guys. So let me know what you think. If you're already out there and you already own an Amok style, let me know, what has your experience been? Or perhaps, I don't know, some of you out there might say I'm not even going to consider a ridge lineless hammock, if that's a term. Let me know, give me some feedback. But just a peek at another hammock option. There certainly are a lot out there, and the field seems to be growing every day. So there you have it, the Amok style hammock. I prefer it for lounging, but I suppose you could use it for camping too. Until next time, I'm Syntax77, and you have fun out there.